But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hey, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's the podcast where we hear from bands and artists about what playing music has meant to them, how much they've been able to prioritize it, and what it really means to write songs, play shows, release records in a perpetual way, in a perpetual existence. Because everyone's got a different story, everyone's coming from different backgrounds and has different tales to share. On today's episode, we got Katie Gregson-MacLeod, who's today released her new EP, Big Red, set all around the late night bar on Holloway Road. She speaks a lot about how the name came about and how the name came from the lyrics, really. She realized that one short-lived relationship was a kind of concise story that was perfect for an EP. And so she set the videos there, the video for Your Ex, which she tells about here, which is her getting gradually half-cut drunk throughout. And yeah, I think when a song like Complex that came out last year fired Katie into the stratosphere, basically, that's a whole kind of storyline in itself. besides all the total surprise and joy, there's going to be a bigger task there to keep it going, to keep releasing great songs and keep that initial fire in a bottle freedom that a song like Complex has. That's the crux of this show. That really plays into this idea of 101 part-time jobs. And when you've got something good, the big job is keeping it there and having fun with it. And Katie is clearly doing that with Big Red. Big Red is such a brilliant record. It's so full-hearted, wide-eyed. It's got that real journaling feel that captures our hearts and imaginations. And I'm buzzing on it. I know I'm not alone. Thank you so much for listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Got some amazing episodes in front of us with Buck Meek from Big Thief, Jack Stedman from Bombay Bicycle Club, Pip Blom, Fiddler, Snail Mail, Baby Queen, Jelani Blackman. So if you like any of those names and you want to be notified as those episodes come out, it's simple. Subscribe. When you subscribe, when you click that bell of a button on Apple or Spotify, not to be rude, you get episodes come through to you every day they come out. So subscribe to the show, and if you've got a second or feel really philanthropic today, you can leave a rating or a review, and I'll be in debt to you forever. Thank you so much. All right, before we get into this chat, I'm here with Rebecca from Eka, brand ambassador for Ampolo, which is a great free app for musicians. Rebecca, could you tell us a bit about Ampolo and who's using it and why and when?
So I've been using Ampolo for a few months now. You can upload any song. So I've been playing around with some Eka bits, or I'm a saxophonist, so I play a lot of Charlie Parker and things like that. So anything goes really, and it demixes it within under a minute. So I can take out that part. So especially for jazz use case, if I'm wanting to improv, myself, I'm not then stuck with Charlie's solo. Said no one ever, but it means that I can experiment with my own, which is really, really, really cool. And alongside that, I'm kind of filming myself, seeing what I look like. And it's great, and you're kind of recording that and then sharing it. It's a little bit of that kind of digital, practice room board. We're looking for a drummer, we're looking for a guitarist, with alongside all these super cool tools, and I'm using it for all the different instruments I play. And it's out now, Ampolo. It's out there to be had. No downsides. No downsides. Yeah, go download it, and I'll see you in there.
All right, here's Katie Gregson-MacLeod on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Cheers. 101 Part-Time Jobs. This show, I started it a few years ago because lots of my friends were playing music, and as teenagers, and we grew up in a place where there was gigs happening and there was this kind of ecosystem. It was like people were promoters, people would work behind the bar at venues, people would play music, people would run record labels. And I think at some point I thought, anyone who can carry on doing this past the studying age, where you've got the buffer of a student loan, anyone who can carry on past that is incredible. You know what I mean? Because it's such a mindset thing. To be able to kind of prioritize your music is such a huge thing.
Yeah, no, I feel also, this is my first year of kind of doing it for real. I was in uni until last August, September. So it's I'm still kind of in that period of adjusting to the fact that this is technically my job.
Yeah.
And it's very bizarre, and it's I don't know why anyone would choose to do it, but we're doing it.
Why is that?
Just it's an insane industry, as you say. It's just such an intense place, but we all love it. It's I think most people that do, anyway, all I can speak for is my kind of role, which is writing and stuff, and the only reason we do it is because it's the only thing we would do. But,
you'd be doing it whether it was kind of full-time or not,
whether it was good or not, whether it was doing well or not. It's gonna happen either way. But now and again, I'll I'll look at my old history books and I'll be maybe I should have just stuck with Stalin. But no, I'm doing it now, and it's bizarre to think now and again I'm wait, this is my job, doing the most random shit.
Well, right now, what you're feeling right now and over the last year, you'll never have this again exactly the way it's been. This is such a one-off time. It's a very special time.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, I was just in the thick of it. Like, I feel like it was just, yeah, I mean, not to 100. And I always, like, the word overnight is chucked around a lot, but it really was overnight. And, like, going from, like, being a barista and a student and obviously working in music and stuff, but it was all kind of a very abstract idea, and the idea of success was very different, and the idea of what my possible like objectives could be were just so different. And then it's been the most insane year, and it's such a unique experience. It's hard to like there are a few people that I can like kind of look to and think you actually get what's going on, but it's a very bizarre time. It's been fun, but mainly bizarre and silly.
It's a really interesting point when you say, you know, what does success look like? Because, you know, when you posted Complex and put away your phone and that next morning, and, you know, I mean, I hope you're not bored about talking about this. I imagine you wake up and like your phone's lit up like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Because it was the overnight thing, wasn't it? I mean, when people were sharing that on TikTok and all these celebrities and all these huge artists were sharing it, at that time, did that feel like success? Do you remember exactly what you felt in that moment?
Yeah, I think that it was hugely exciting. It was like it was all the unknown at this point. It was like, what is going on? But I was really enjoying it. It was really exciting. It felt like, it felt so affirming and so validating having these people that I followed for years and that I looked up to, you know, coming and sharing, as you say, and stuff. So like, I mean, it felt amazing. And also like the possibilities of what were going to happen. I just didn't know what was going on. So it was just like a whole world opened up.
Yeah.
And like that is the most intense period that has been. Like it's not like that all the time now, but I mean now I'm just kind of like, it's like recalibrating and adjusting to like that happened. It's not always gonna feel and look exactly like that first couple months felt and looked, but now it's like adjusting to the fact that it happened, adjusting to like what my life looks like now. And as you say, like what does success look like to me now? And it's a question that I still, you know, think about a lot. And because when I was in like as an independent artist who was like, I mean, I was doing well, but like in a kind of like traditional trajectory, slowly but surely kind of thing. Like I was, I think just like the week before I had my first Radio 1 play and I had my first like Spotify playlist. So I was like, those moments I felt so like I really felt them, you know? And then I think now it's like the idea of, I mean, about 10 to 15 years worth of you know, unfathomable progress happened within like 3 weeks last August. So it's like all these things that if they'd happened over a decade, I would have been pretty chuffed anyway. But they'd happened in like a few weeks. And I think that I was just like, I mean, I was spoiled obviously, but now it's like, it's just adjusting to what does success look like post having something like that happen to you. And it's a very different thing. And I think that I kind of was forced to, or decided that the only way that I could really like control and measure success in a way that would be fulfilling is to kind of go back into a very kind of intrinsic and creative version of success. So like just kind of, I think I've just tried to recenter upon what actually what fulfills me, and that's the writing. And so I try not to think about the kind of objective and measurable versions of success, but they do creep up, and I'm on a major label, so it's an important part of it. But also I try to like have my own goals be more creative, which is hard, but that's kind of the main, you know, it's tough.
Yeah, and that going, you know, remembering that idea that writing the songs, being the creative, going into your world, you know, where that like feels like that's your place. That's the magic. That's the gold, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that it is harder now. Like without a doubt, it's harder to look at something just for the process and look at it as creatively as I did before, because I think there's so much more around it now. You know, before it was really like, you know, kind of underdog, like writing so many songs, writing every day and writing so much and improving kind of without anyone seeing it. And no one was really, I had like a small listenership, but no one was really watching and listening. And now it's this kind of, I'm very lucky to be where I am, and like the audience that I have because of Complex, I never thought I would have. But it's obviously just an added pressure, and it's like having to keep that purity and that focus on the writing is harder for sure.
Yeah. When you released the EP Games I Play, and you shared a couple of singles before then, you said earlier that it was kind of a slow and steady, and it was kind of like, this is how people do it. You know, I think playing music and being in this world, you know, kind of for better or worse, we are looking about what other people do, and it's like, is this the right way? Is this the right way it's going? I mean, still, I think this is a big part about this conversation and 101 Part-Time Jobs is about kind of having that self-belief and having that kind of, I don't know, that peace, because there's not a lot of peace that goes into this, is there?
Yeah, no, I think that there's such a kind of contentment that comes from like not the struggle, because it wasn't a struggle, but that comes from the fact that you're kind of like on the grind a bit. Like there's some sort of like contentment in the fact that it's all kind of yet to come, and
it's a few miles away. You're hustling.
Yeah, and like I was committed to the hustle. I was committed to like, you know, I was like, I'm probably going to be. I was gigging a lot for like, you know, my whole adult life, whatever, from the age of like 16, 17, and like I was gigging a lot, and I was like, I'm going to have to do after uni. I'll have no money, so I'll be back in the sports bars. I'll be pubbing. I'll be like, you know, gigging as much as possible, releasing music, and hopefully my kind of version of success then was like, obviously people buying tickets and listening to the songs, but also like my idea of success was like, how long will it take for me to be able to get to a point where I'm not working as a barista or not working in pubs before I can do this full time. So that was kind of where I was, and that was my mindset. It was like, it's going to take probably years before I'm at that point where it's like my full-time job. Do you remember what that felt? Did that feel like a weight on your shoulders? I loved it. Like, I think that also I was at the start of it, and I was like, I'm sure that if you'd asked, if that had been the case and that had happened, like, and then 5 years later, if you asked me, I'd be like, fuck this. But I was still at uni, and I was like, I mean, I loved what I studied, so it's like also that helps. But what did you study? Sorry, I did history, but mainly mainly Soviet era. And nice. Yeah, so it was, I loved what I was studying, but it was never like the career. It was always like the kind of just like the passion. And then, but yeah, I think I loved it. I loved the idea of like, or I loved the feeling of, you know, being a bit of an underdog and kind of like, no one knows that I, you know, what the potential is here. And neither do I, but we're just going to have to like fight for it. So you worked at Perk, the coffee shop. Yeah. How were you there? Were you a good barista? Any complaints about your coffee? I'm projecting. When I worked at a coffee shop, I had so many complaints about mine. What was wrong with your coffee? Burn, bad. That's the worst. Yeah, to be fair, burnt milk is never good. I did a lot. I did quite a bit of the donut baking. So I was like working. Oh. It was like a donut and coffee shop. So I was like baking donuts and making coffee, and it's a good life. Probably like I haven't eaten a donut since. Like I haven't eaten a donut since leaving Perk, because I was eating like a warm cinnamon sugar ring every morning for breakfast kind of thing. So it's so delicious, but like I could never do it now. Like now the idea of it's kind of like, no, I can't. But yeah, I think I was hopefully a good barista. By the time I left, I was good. I think the first couple of years I was probably a bit shy. But then by the time I left, I'd been there for 5 years. No, it's 4 years. 4 years since it opened. So I think it was 4 years. And you need time to get good at those things, and this isn't even a tenuous link, but like it's same with music as well, right? It takes like time to nurture, to get all right at things and learn to find out who you are, and like equally try and push forward with it and keep on making better and better stuff all the time. And it makes me think, you know, in that world of, you know, if coffee shops, I feel like when I go into a coffee shop, like 1 out of 4 people is a creative, or they're playing music. Yeah, or like an actor or something. I feel like there's always like, yeah, most people that I know in London that are and also back home in Edinburgh, Inverness, Glasgow, like most people that I know that are doing what I do are working in a pub or working in a coffee shop. So it's like a gold mine. It's like you should just go. Labels should just go in there and just like put a microphone on people. But I'm quite glad that when you said like the thing about like it takes a while to kind of get better and to hone it and stuff. I'm glad that I was able to do that in kind of private and not do it like if Complex had happened and that was my first song that I'd you know thought about releasing, like I would be in a very different place and I feel like I'd be a bit more vulnerable. But I would think I was lucky to have a few like 4 years, 5 years, whatever under my belt of releasing and gigging and stuff. So I'm quite lucky that was the case, because growing up in public is not easy. I'm already kind of growing in public now after Complex, but I can't imagine what that'd be like if I hadn't had that foundation. And also as a songwriter, like you improve so much in that period of time. So it's like I would never change anything. I'm very happy that like there was and I would have done, as I said, I would have done longer in the coffee shop, you know.
Everyone's on like this like journey of growth. I know that sounds quite earnest and like real, but it's true. You know, everyone's kind of working out what makes sense to them, what they want to sound like, what they want to look like, what their vibe is, what their kind of personality is. Over the last year, you know, you talked earlier about, you know, getting back to the writing and kind of looking inwardsly again, looking like, okay, what's the magic? And the magic starts with the music at the very, with the music. What's the last year looks like for you? You mentioned living in London. Was that a move? Was that part of it?
Yeah, I moved to London. I was kind of here most of the time from August when Complex happened. And then I moved to London properly in January. I'm in North London, and yeah, I mean, like, it's been a crazy year. I think a lot of this year has been dealing with the last few months of last year. I think it's been like just readjusting and it, with the help of a great team around me at the label and my manager and stuff, with the help of them, kind of looking at just trying to recalibrate and trying to kind of just always keeping in mind, like, what does it all look like now? What's the goal now? Who am I now? And there's a lot of big questions. And like, it's a weird, I didn't really have any self-doubt before Complex, but now it's like, it's just a very different thing. And
well, that's going to be expected because it is, it's like, it's drafting up for the first team. It's it's like, okay, this is my main thing now, got to look after it and protect it.
There was no one kind of, when there aren't many people listening and there isn't much pressure, like, it was only me putting the pressure on myself. It was only like, and it still mainly is me, but now there genuinely is an audience, and there genuinely are, like, things to think about and things at stake. I don't know. It's just like, as you say, when you do kind of get that call, or like when you have to step up, like, that's when the self-doubt creeps in. And the only thing that, like, really makes me feel better is, like, working on the music and trying to write better and better songs and trying to make music that sounds better and stuff. But it's it's hard because it's like you have people listening and you're like, oh shit, I'm kidding, like, I never said I was good, I have one song or whatever. But it's it's a very bizarre process. That's kind of been what the last year has been, but it's also been being in the studio. I've been in the studio the first kind of half of this year. Was like I was in there making music, and I've been festival season kind of for the first time properly.
Awesome. Different
places in Europe and doing quite a few in the UK and stuff. So it's just been like, it's been busy, but not like, I probably did more in the last couple of months of last year than I have in the whole year this year, because I couldn't do that again. That's fucking madness.
Have you, I think you touched it earlier, I think you mentioned it earlier, but having people around you that you can ask for advice and, trust and like, we all have like, moments of being like, is this a mad thought? Should I do this? Should I not do that? Have you got people around you that you can, artists or musicians or friends who, you can rely on like that, you can lean on like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that obviously the team is just like, I've just got a great team. Like, I'm very fortunate in that you know, I got people on board who just like are so down to earth and so supportive, and we know each other so well now, and they know what I'm like now, and they know, you know, how to deal with me. But then also just like great friends and musicians, and a lot of my friends down here are in the industry, and also it's nice to speak to people who aren't in the industry as well. Like I think that it's quite refreshing to have some perspective, because we don't have perspective. Like it is just songs, and but it's obviously it's to us, it's our whole life. So it's quite nice to chat to people that aren't in the industry as well. But yeah, I'm very lucky, got a great support network. It's been like a big time of self-reflection, but also being able to talk about that to people that understand, especially people that have like had it happen to them in some way. It's super interesting.
And you're building your own world. You know, it makes me think when you say, you know, you're surrounded by like music's the main thing. Music's the everyday. That's fucking cool.
Yeah. I think that like for me it's this I think the main thing last year after Complex wasn't really music, you know, like when something like that happens, you're not really making music all the time after that, you know, it's everything else that's happening. It's like businessy stuff, and it's you're so fortunate. I mean, like after Complex, it was like a whirlwind of like being able to, you know, sign with a record label, all this kind of stuff. But it took a while before I was like making music again. And it's like, it's just such a grounding thing to like get back in the studio and like, oh, this is what I forgot what we were doing. Like, this is actually what we're doing. But yeah, I think that it is my whole, like, music is my whole life in so many ways. But I think this last year has been my main task. I think coming to London, not my main task, but coming to London, a big part of what I wanted to feel was that I had like a life around. I mean, for me, London was just work, you know, but now I live here. I'm like, okay, what does my life look like here? And that's the only way.
Where do you hang out, and like, what do you want to do to have fun? It's like, where do you find yourself?
It's like, because I don't write about being in the studio, you know, I'm in the studio because of other stuff, because of life. So it was like, okay, I'm going to move down to London. And then I was here and I was like, okay, what now? What is this place apart from work? And I think that a lot of this year has been dedicated to like, at least thinking about like trying to fill out my life here. And it's you know, it's going well, but it's a very bizarre place.
It is. And I grew up in the suburbs, and my parents are from Harrow, so they always worked in town. All my aunts and uncles worked in town. For it took me a while to find, you know, my road, and find my area, and find my friends, really, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like there is so much to find here, and there are so many amazing people and that stuff, but it is just quite like a anonymous place until you find those like ways in. And I love where I live. I live in North London, and I love like people that are around me and stuff. But yeah, it's such a vast place, and I'm still getting the hang of it. But it's not been as arduous as I thought it would be to try and find my footing, which is good.
London in the summer is the best time.
It's transformative. I've loved it so much. I mean, like right now, maybe not right now because it's like just grey and very muggy, but the last like couple of weeks have just been lovely. But yeah, it does transform the city for sure.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs. Big Red is the EP that's, you know, just about to come out. What was that? You know, do you remember the first steps, like the first song you wrote for it? What was the first song you wrote for it?
Yeah, I wrote, without knowing, obviously, that it was going to be the first song for a project, I wrote Your Ex, which was the first single.
Yeah,
that was the first song
such a tune.
Yeah, because I think when I first wrote it, it was like literally a piss take. Like, I thought it was funny. It was like the last song in a session in which we wrote like a few different songs with writers called TMS, and they were like playing along with the beat, and I was like, I'm quite lyric focused, so I'm like all about like sitting in the corner and like thinking about the words, and so like it was like the end of the day, everyone's quite delirious, and I like penned up until the last up until the first post chorus. But obviously the first half of the song, I still think is like a bit of a joke. Like it's just a bit of a piss take. And so I came up with that, and the next day we kind of bounced them out, listened to them at home and stuff. And then I came out the next day and I was like, why is the joke one the best one that we did?
Joke in the way that it kind of, I'm thinking about it now. The first thing I thought about it, well, I was like, this is brilliant. You're really like setting the scene. The first 4 lines is like, I'm this person, you're that person. This is where we are. This is the scenario. That's a Taylor Swift, maybe Avril Lavigne kind of.
I think when I wrote it, I was like, the syntax of this is really funny. Like, Flower the merch stand. It was very like, it's like Yoda-esque. It's like talking to her ex-man was you, short blonde hair, like the girl just sang was me. Like, it just, for me, that's not the kind of way I usually write lyrics. So I was like, this is quite funny. And then going into the chorus, the pre-chorus, whatever it is, and it's like, I'm just talking about like, you know, I mean, even if she bought your t-shirt and it ended up on your floor, that for me, I was like, that's fun, it's funny, it's all just a joke. And then like they gave her head to Statebird and stuff, and it was just like, it was very much like a delirium at the end of the day. But then the next day we were like, that was actually the best one. And then I wrote the first song in the EP, which is called September. I wrote that the next day. Wow. That was like a big week of writing. I think I wrote like 4 songs which will come out. So it's like nice. It was a crazy, not all on this project, but yeah, it was a crazy couple of days. And then I think I wrote, the next one would have been in the new year. I wrote like guest list and the rest of the songs, and so it kind of, it's not in chronological order, but it felt like the order that Your Ex felt like it's the last song on the EP, and it felt a bit like a wanky word, but it felt a bit like an epilogue.
Talking about the place that you're in there, which is, you know, in the kind of gig environment, you say, you know, been playing gigs since you were 16, 17, all the time. Is it a lot of music is social? So are those kinds of lyrics, are they kind of set in that place, in those venues, in those bars?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of my songs, and even like the fact that the EP is like based on a pub, like, I mean, a lot of the themes and narratives and stuff that I write about are like, from that kind of space. But it's also just like being a musician, it kind of comes up quite a lot. I've definitely referenced a few guitars and stuff in my songs. But yeah, I in terms of lyrics, I mean, I think that the best ones for me are like, they aren't super conscious, or they aren't super like kind of, I'm not very methodical. It is kind of very much like what comes out is what I try to keep it as. And there are some songs that come out as like poems, and I'll like write, and I'll be a bit more tinkering involved and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of it is like, if the space and time is right, and it should just like happen naturally. But it's kind of harder now, because it's now like, it's like a job now. You know what I mean? So before it was like the way that I kind of procrastinated from writing essays, and now it's like a bit more thought about, you know, I should be writing right now, and then it's kind of harder to get, because it's such a natural, such like a spontaneous thing for me. It can't be forced, and so therefore I find it a bit more like challenging sometimes. But yeah, I think that there are certain, I mean, hangovers are great for writing. I would say, like, there are certain moods that I'm in. After therapy sessions are great for writing. There's just certain like moments I can, like, you know, kind of guarantee a sweet spot, but generally it's spontaneous combustion kind of thing.
Is there a set time when it gets to like 9 or 10 in the evening, you're like, I'm putting this down? Do you do that?
I think that I don't actually. I think that, like, for me, as I said, it's so spontaneous, and a lot of the time the late night kind of thing helps me, you know, getting into that kind of like solo space. I mean, now I've got a boyfriend, I spend too much time with him, and I need to spend more time alone to write in the evenings, but now I'm like having like nice evenings and like watching The Apprentice and stuff, so it's like not the same kind of like emo emotional, like by the candlelight, like writing at like 11 p.m. But that is kind of where it works best, when it's like a late night thing and you're like, you know, kind of in your coven. But yeah.
I wrote the most when I lived alone. When I was 18, I moved down to Brighton, and I did a little journalist course and lived in just a bedsit, you know, one of those ones where it's a shared toilet with a bunch of strangers that you don't know who are twice your age. Like, and I wrote so much. And after that, my friends lived in this big party house in Peckham. And I was like, yes, I can't wait to just like go wild, spend my 20s wilding out. I didn't write hardly anything there, you know, and I look back and I'm like, oh, I should have been, you know, I should have, when I lived alone, like writing and being creative was like a product of being lonely.
Yeah, that's what it is. I did the same thing at uni. Like when I was at uni, in first year of uni, I was obviously in like halls, and I was like, I didn't really like first year of uni, and I was a bit like depressed, and I was a bit like, yeah, I mean, you're always kind of going to be a bit isolated in the first year of uni anyway, but that I wrote like hundreds of songs in that room with just my guitar, like tiny guitar and like tiny room, and I wrote like hundreds of songs. And like, yeah, I can't write too much when I'm having too much fun all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've definitely, I mean, this summer I've been like having way too many like just lovely, you know, beer garden evenings. That's not very like, it doesn't really get you into the space. But also I always have this argument with my A&R. I'm always saying that, you know, I'm worried about being too happy. I'm worried about having too much peace in my life. And he's like, he's like, that's the myth. He's like, you can still write a lot even if you're happy. And I was like, fucking prove it then, because I'm not. Where's the product? But yeah,
I hope it is a myth, because I don't want anyone to be depressed and like think that they have to be depressed to write a good song. You know, you want to, like, and that's part of it. Again, like, part of this is like what I'm interested in is then 101 part-time jobs is like the sustainability of it all. You know, you want to be 45, 55, 65 writing songs. Redefining
what songwriting is to you, and like not redefining it, but just, I mean, like writing about, for me, it's like recently I've just tried to write about different things, different angles. I think for a while, writing was pretty much exclusively for me processing and kind of almost like journaling like shitty romantic situations. And that wasn't like a conscious thing where I was like, in order to appeal to teenage girls, I must do this. It wasn't like that. It was just like, that was what came out naturally. And it was the way I wrote best as well, because it was like, I didn't say these things to people, and I'm not a very confrontational person. And so it was like a diary, and it still is. But I mean, as I get older, I'm still only 22, but like even just like maturing beyond being 18, 19, 20, and like no longer getting into those situations. And now I'm like, okay, I'm making choices that are a bit too good for me. And like I think that I'm getting towards being healed from these things, and it's there's always little bits though. There's always bits you can pick out, but I mean, like generally, I feel like these aren't like big clouds over my everyday anymore, and it's like it's definitely a bit of a fear of like, okay, what do I have to say now? Because before I wasn't thinking about what I had to say. I was just talking about things that happened to me, and so it's like there's always new experiences to write about, but I definitely have those like moments where I'm like, I just kind of want someone to fuck me over in a really minor way, just really one time, and I want to be over it in a week, but I want to have a really strong week of writing. But the thing with the Big Red EP was like, that was a very pleasant situation, ship-esque relationship, and it was like, and it ended, and it was just very like prolific time. I was just like, I think that when I'm in something, I can like get a microscope and I will like pull out every little like micro emotion and every little situation and be able to like dissect it into like multiple songs, you know. But so it works for me being inspired like that, but it's always a bit of a fear, you know, being too I think it'll always be there. I think my mum writes books, and I'm sure, you know, she said in our lives, like throughout all me and my siblings' lives, she's like, you know, I need to keep on doing stuff to find what I'm writing about. And speaking about jobs, she got when my parents broke up, she got a job at a high security prison, teaching them to write, and that was huge for her, and it was like scary, and it was like gnarly, you know. She'd come home and be like, this is scary, surreal shit.
but she was like that kind of changed her life because that, and then after that she kind of became a sort of a crime author, you know. And I mean, are you reading a lot? You mentioned reading Soviet stuff at uni. I mean, it makes you books are a huge, I think one of the amazing things about books and fiction is that sometimes you can read something and you're like, oh, that's how I feel, like, and then all of a sudden you start extrapolating this stuff from within yourself with the help of this book.
I think the two things do that for me, and it's like it's like journaling and reading. It's like the kind of, sometimes you need to like just let yourself write something as in a narrative form, and then you have to be like, oh, that's why I was feeling, but like instead of like thinking about it as poetry all the time. So sometimes I'll just like journal for like an hour and just see what comes out, and then I'll pick, even the EP, some songs in the EP were inspired or based on words or sentences I wrote in my journal. But then also reading, I feel like I like literally was on like I need to read way more, basically is what I'm going to say. But after uni, I was like, right, I can't read any more words. Like I can't read any more words for a wee while now, because obviously you can imagine like studying history and English. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. But I think that fiction is like, I haven't delved into fiction enough, and like that's my kind of one of my big things for this year. I'm wanting to, because as you say, like it's like you can definitely like find bits of yourself and bits of like things you wanted to say in stories that aren't yours, and I'd like to do more of that. I can't lie, I didn't get a ton of introspection or reflection or inspiration from reading about the Politburo or reading about the NKVD. It just didn't give me that, like, you know, the reflection. But I reckon if I got a job at Hollywood Histories, I'd be fucking sorted. Do you know what I mean? So
big time. What does Big Red mean?
Big Red is a pub in Holloway Road. So
yes,
it's like,
the one that's open really late.
Yeah.
Damn, I can taste the tequila.
Oh,
and the bad pool games.
I don't know. Yeah, pool. It's we actually filmed all the lyric videos for the EP in that.
I was there. Nice.
In that pub, and every single one it's just me getting more and more drunk as the day goes on, and it was real. It was kind of a bit too real, and the whole pub is based on that, because it was like the first place that I went for like a drink with this guy. That the whole EP is about, which sounds quite obsessive, and I'm aware, but basically there's a line in the first song which mentions the pub, and I was kind of like trying to think of EP titles or like potential, just kind of potentially looking at the project, and before it was a thing really, and I kind of read the Big Red line, and I was like, what if it was all just set in this one pub, because it was a very short kind of like intense relationship, so I was like, the idea of it being over one night is not that, you know, is not that ludicrous. So yeah, Big Red.
That's awesome.
And like all the imagery is based in there. All the like the vinyl cover and the everything, it's all shot in the Big Red.
Ace. And it's for listeners, for us, it's like it's a real thing. It makes the songs really kind of live and breathe.
It's very real, and like I quite love like building a world around a project, and like for me, obviously these songs are like just a story of things that happened in my life, and this whole project is literally just one person, one story. So it's like it made sense for me to kind of have it feel really truthful and like by the book, because it was it was all one thing. But I love when I feel like with an album or an EP even, but I love when it feels like you're kind of stepping into like a whole world that's been really thought out or very cohesive. And even though it's just an EP, I had the opportunity to do that because it was just one narrative. So I had a kind of I had a very like prime chance to like build a world around it. So
yeah, and stepping into that world, it feels like you got a friend, you know, when you love a record or discover a record that you love, you're like, oh, the record is your friend, you know, and you're there, you're hanging out with them, like, you know, we're there with you, you know.
Yeah, it feels like this is kind of, the EP is just like going through going through each little part of the situation with me. It's like it's really just it's just like a running commentary throughout the whole thing. And it's quite a short relationship, and as I said before, like it's kind of very much okay, let's zoom in and pick this facet of it, or let's zoom in and pick this emotion and write a whole song about that. So there's like a whole dedicated song to like the breakup phone call. There's a whole dedicated song to like the moment that I realized I kind of might want to be with this person properly. There's like a whole moment based on seeing his ex in the merch stand. Like these are all like zoomed in, like minuscule moments that are kind of like, this running kind of commentary.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs. Katie, thanks so much for being up for this. I appreciate the time. You know,
thank you so much.
I like to end these asking with some work fails, work gaffes. I mentioned earlier that I was never very good at making coffee. I was not good behind the bar. I was smash a lot of glasses. Quite good at pouring pints. Never got complaints there. So I like hearing those kinds of stories of work kind of fuck ups, and this is absolutely not like, this is not a fuck up. This is an awesome thing to have happened. Were labels turning up at Perk when you were working there?
Yeah, they were actually. I think that some of the press got the idea that they had completely spontaneously flown to London to scout me at my coffee shop, which is not the case. But there was a day full of meetings with all the different major labels and other labels, all on this one day scheduled for in person. Obviously, we made them fly to Inverness because we were like, I'm not going to fly to London and be all in your territory. You know, you have to come to me. And so it was like this day full of record label meetings. But I went to the coffee shop Perk that I worked in for years. I went there to put my head in, and I looked around, and you can spot an A&R from a mile away. Like I literally, each table, I was like, they were looking at me a wee bit, and I was like, this is the fucking record labels, isn't it? So it was like 3 different labels in this. It's a tiny shop. It's like literally, it can fit 3 tables in it. So it was like looking around. I was like, oh, so everyone here is an A&R trying to sign me. It's quite fun.
They came looking for you. They came sniffing.
Yeah, and obviously there's like one flight up in the morning to Inverness from London, so everyone is on the same flight, like having that moment. And it was just very surreal walking in and being, I think I cleared their tables as well, because I think I felt this kind of like obligation to like help my friends out, because they were like, having to serve these A&Rs all morning, which is a horrible experience for anyone. But I was I didn't expect that. I walked in, obviously like press and stuff coming into the shop when I was working early on in the kind of period of time when we weren't really talking to press, because I was like, what? Why would I have to talk to press? And then people were coming in trying to get photos and stuff, and then we told everyone at Perk, no one talk to the press until the PR team is like involved. And then of course the next day I've got like my coworker in front of the shop, like in the papers. I was like, girl, you had one job.
She was chatting to everyone.
Yeah, she was like, we're really proud of her. I was like, shh, you have to just keep it quiet. I love it though. I love it. It was such a crazy experience. No one knew what was going on, to be fair. So it's like, I don't blame her.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So have you, when I talk about work gaffes, work fails, does anything come to mind there? Any stories? Have you been a pretty good worker? You strike me as someone who is a responsible worker.
Responsible, but I'm like the most distractible and distracting person probably to work with. I mean, when I worked at a restaurant from the age of 16, I made so many messes and it probably was like the cause of many issues, and also just used to chat too much. I just used to chat from Scotland, so it was like not a good workplace kind of addition. But yeah, I think that I've just made way too many fuck ups as a barista and a waitress in my time to even, it's like, it's like the classic thing. I mean, trying to think of like, I used to be kind of shit at making flat whites, so that was just a daily occurrence, I guess. But
that's hard. It's hard stuff.
Hard one. And then now it's like it's second nature, but before it was like, this is literally like rocket science. But no, I used to fuck up every day in hospitality. It's so hard. You kind of have to every day in hospitality. It's impossible not to.
You learn the hard way. That's how you learn.
Yeah, and I'm also just like, I'm an extremely forgetful person, and that's not a good trait to have as a waitress at like a fine dining establishment. I'm just like, oh, you didn't get your anything. An hour ago,
Anything you
I didn't
wanted.
notice.
Hey, it's Katie, thanks so much. It's been
Thank
loads
you
of fun.
so much.
Cheers for this.
Have the best day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too.
Cheers.
So there was Katie Gregson-MacLeod here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Her new EP, Big Red, is out today. Go and listen to it. Go and order it. Go to Big Red. You can feel it. You're able to do that. You can step into the bar and you can feel those tunes. What a special thing. Thanks again for listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Please feel free to subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and I'll see you in the next couple of weeks with Buck Meek from Big Thief, Jack from Bombay Bicycle Club, Jelani Blackman, who else? Pip Blom. Yeah, loads of great guests. So tune in. See you soon.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.